Hi everyone, Rachel Jensen here, broker owner of Luna Realty Belize on the beautiful island of Ambergris Caye. We are in the inbox today, which is when we answer questions that have been asked by folks like you about the real estate industry here in Belize. So today we're answering a question that's been asked by Brandon, and he says, what is the price per square foot in Belize? Now, do note that we have answered this question last year, but obviously a year has passed, prices have increased, so I wanted to make sure that you all have the update here about what the price per square foot is in Belize. Now, before I answer this, I do want to share with you that there are two different types of properties, right? There's property that is new construction, under construction, pre-construction even that you may be looking at. And those prices per square foot are going to be varying compared to the price per square foot of a resale property. So compared to a property that, let's say, has been built 10 years ago when the construction costs were considerably less. Now, obviously, in real estate, the value is what the market is willing to pay. We've seen here in Belize, as Belize continues to get more attention, there's more interest garnered in the country, more direct flights coming into the country, just generally more eyeballs here, more people here physically. We saw for Q1 of 2024 that the number of visitors per month have surpassed any year previously. So obviously, this country is getting a lot of attention. Now, as we boil that down to more attention, more people coming here, more of a demand for products. So it's not really a surprise that prices have increased. Obviously, when you factor that into, let's say, inflation and supply and demand, it just has continued to increase. So quick for new construction, I would say that if you're looking for a higher end North American quality product, you're looking at about $240 US a square foot. Now, it can be less than that. This is on Ambergris Caye specifically. It can be less than that, of course. It could be more than that, of course, just depending on what it is you're building and the type of quality of property that you're building. But this brings us actually, I'm going to take a step back here with this price per square foot slide. There was a contractor, Peter Garian, and we did a video on construction costs in Belize, specifically on Ambergris Caye. I'll hyperlink below, put the link below in the description so that you can watch that if you haven't tuned in. That's a great one to listen to. Now, I have seen so many people comment and be like, these numbers are crazy, these are outrageous. And I do want to share with you that this, like I said, is for a higher end North American quality and standard property on the Keys, on the island, on Ambergris Caye. But I'm going to talk to you about how these numbers are determined, what determines the price. And if you've invested in real estate before, or you're a real estate person, you probably understand this. If you're newer to the space and you're just trying to understand and get a handle on numbers and why they are the way they are, then this will be a good overview for you. So like we just determined, or like we just mentioned, factors to consider. What determines the price? Is it new construction or is it a resale? Typically, properties that are new construction are going to cost more than properties that maybe were the same square footage, but were built previously. You have to remember that when somebody purchased that property, let's say 10 years ago, and the construction costs were less, they're trying to make a profit on what they spent. So likely so that price per square foot will be less. I do not recommend anybody do a price per square foot just because there are so many factors to consider, and it's not a simple equation like that. There are a lot of other numbers to be factoring in, but this will help you with that cost. All right, so also the location. We've heard it in real estate, location, location, location. When you're in prime property or you're in an area where there's prime property, you are going to be paying more. So you have to consider land value in the price that you are looking at as well. So if you have property where there's road access, for example, and there's actually a road in, then you're probably going to be paying more for that property than if there was no road access. Also, is it within a planned community or not? If it's not within a planned community, let's say it's a standalone property, now you don't necessarily have I'd say the security of knowing what is going to be built around you. When you're in a planned community, you can preserve your property value because you know what's going to be going up in the lot next to you, let's say, or within that community. That developer is able to control the build, because here in Belize, we don't have any rules when it comes to zoning unless you're in a planned community. If you have a one-off property, you may not know what's going next to you if the lot is not yet built on. So again, location, location, location. Utilities. What type of utilities does that property have? Now, does it even have utility access? There are many places in Belize on Ambergris Caye that do not have public water, that do not have public electricity. We don't know when they're coming. We don't know those answers, right? And a lot of people say, well, when do you think that there's going to be public electricity coming to Secret Beach, for example? Well, I can tell you that there's a new town going up north that the government has been putting focus on. So they'll probably be bringing electricity, which they already have, to the neighborhood up north before they bring it to Secret Beach. But again, when, I'm not exactly sure. So yes, it probably likely happen at some point, but when, I have absolutely no idea. So anyway, coming back to that, utilities, is there utility there? Are there utility access? Now, do note if that property has access to utilities and it's already hooked up, perfect. But note that sometimes if you're buying a lot, the lot may not actually have the hookup done yet. So you'll have to pay to get that property hooked up. Also, what type of utilities does that property have? Do they have solar? Do they have their own water system, like a cistern or a well or a water catchment? Note that when you're buying in a new property, if it has solar, if it has a water cistern, you're probably going to be paying more for a price per square foot than you would if you're connected up to the grid, because a solar system that's going to be able to hold enough energy for that property is going to get costly, right? And for a general 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 800 square foot, you're looking at a solar system about $20,000 to $25,000 US to factor in. So again, considering all of this, also, what are you building? The quality of what you're building. You can easily build out of plywood here and, have your house that you can get for $40 a square foot US. However, is that what you really want to have in the tropics? Don't you probably want to have a property, especially if you're on the coast over here, that can withstand hurricanes or is hurricane proof to some extent? Now, is it insulated? Especially if you're in the tropics and you plan to have air conditioning, you probably want to have a house that's insulated. Not all homes are insulated. So again, more numbers to be factoring in. Type of material used, we talked about that. Also, your North American standards. Are you looking for a house that is plumbed with hot water? Not necessarily a standard here. Are you looking for a house that has air conditioning in all of the rooms? Not necessarily a standard here. So these are the things that are very important into that determine the quality of what you're building. Also, if you're buying a resale, is the property furnished? Obviously, if it's furnished, then that property is going to be more, right, than if it was not furnished. And most properties here tend to be sold fully furnished, because if people are selling their property, they tend to be relocating somewhere else, whether it's to the mainland or to another country or back to their home country. So they're not taking all of their furniture with them. Now, that's not true in all cases. You definitely want to ask, but in a lot of cases, it is coming fully furnished. Also, what sort of amenities are there on the property? Is there a pool? This kind of links back up to, is it a planned community or not? Like, is it a development? What sort of things are there in the property? If it's in a development, do they have the pickleball court? Do they have a playground? Do they have a gym? All of this is coming into the prices. Also, imported items. Okay, this is very important for people to understand. Belize is a small country, about the size of Massachusetts, population-wise, about 400,000 people. Just for comparison, the first smallest country in Central America is El Salvador, where their population is 6.5 million. So here in Belize, we have a population of 400,000, but it is the second smallest country in the region. With that being said, there is not a lot that is actually produced here in the country. And so what happens is when you're building a home, or if you want something specialty, you'll have to import it. First, you import it to the country, and then you further ship it out. We're on the island here, so you'll barge it out to the island. So there's costs, real costs associated with that. Now, if you want a list of the customs fees, I can put a link to the customs website and you're able to see what those numbers look like. But you're typically looking at anywhere between 40 to 100% the value of that item. That's what you're going to pay in customs. In addition to that, you have an environmental tax, which I believe is about 2.5%. You have a general sales tax at 12.5%. And there could be a couple more fees there on top of that just general customs fee, right? You have to include your shipping fee or your barge fee. So it's not inexpensive when you're bringing items into the country. And this isn't just like a sofa that you're ordering from Wayfair, right? This is anything that is coming from outside of the country into Belize and then further brought off to the island. And then, of course, the demand. What is the supply of that type of property that you're purchasing? It's basic economics, supply and demand. If there's a big supply and there's big demand for it, well, you're going to be looking at costs that are pretty average, pretty general. However, if you're looking at properties that maybe there aren't that many of them, like beachfront properties here, for example, you can understand that it's a smaller supply, so that price is going to be increasing or higher than maybe what you anticipated. And I just want to have this real honest and frank conversation with you, because a lot of times people are coming here, and I think because we're in a developing country and part of Central America, people just expect for things to be cheap. And I know we still have people like, all right, I have $150,000. I'd like a waterfront property, Caribbean front on Ambergris Caye. Those days are long gone, long gone. Of course, we can help you find wonderful properties for 150,000 that are just lots, but there's a lot, again, to be bearing in mind. And if you're looking at a price tag and you're saying that's expensive, then you should reach out to the listing agent or to the real estate agent that you're working with to understand why that number is what it is. A lot of it, though, comes back to supply and demand, what's available, location. All of these are really important factors to consider. So with that being said, feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you. If you are looking at real estate here in Belize, we have a fantastic team here on Ambergris Caye that is very willing and able to help you. Reach out to us. We have tons of resources as well. This is one complimentary e-resource that we have called the real estate buying process. This is an overview for you to be reviewing, of course, beforehand. For us, it makes sense to be educating you. The educated buyers are the best buyers out there because you know what you're getting into, and we have tons of these resources for you. So again, my name is Rachel Jensen, info@lunarealtybelize.com. Reach out to me. We hope to hear from you, and hopefully we'll see you here in person soon. Bye, everyone.